Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Today's episode is called From Getting Rich to Living Richly. And I think this conversation is going to challenge some assumptions you may have about wealth, success, and what it actually means to live a rich life. So often we believe that if we could just make more money, hit a certain number, or achieve a particular level of success, then we'd finally feel secure, fulfilled, and at peace. But what happens when you get there? What happens when you've won the money game, yet you're still asking the bigger questions about purpose, identity, freedom, relationships, and legacy? My guest today helps people navigate that journey. Moa Diseborn is the founder of Studio Melody, a private world for people who have achieved significant financial success and are exploring what comes next. She works discreetly with wealthy entrepreneurs, investors, and visionaries who want more than external success. They want a life that feels rich from the inside out. Her philosophy is simple. When money is no longer the main problem, the real work begins. Moa is known as the secret millionaire's best friend, and today we're diving into the journey from getting rich to living richly. Moa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited for today, Christine.
Me too. Well, Moa, you have built your work around helping people after they've achieved financial success. What are some of the biggest surprises people encounter when they finally arrive at the level of wealth that they once dreamed about?
It's so fascinating to do this work. So what I've learned for this past 16 years, what I've been doing this and seeing all the clients that I've seen, is that most people expect freedom, but what surprises them is the complexity of it all. And the problems don't disappear. Many people expect all the problems to disappear. They just change. And more options often creates more confusion, especially if you're not oriented in this type of change. So I would say success solves financial security, but not the parts where we're talking about identity, relationships, and purpose.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that is just such a popular misconception that once the money comes in, then that will solve all of our problems. And so, I've heard that saying more money, more problems. And I don't like that saying. I prefer more money, better problems, right? You have better quality problems, but problems do not go away. They are. So you often talk about the journey from getting rich to living richly. How would you define the difference between these two things? And what are some of the signs that someone might have mastered wealth creation but hasn't yet discovered how to truly enjoy or experience the richness of life?
So I would say getting rich, I would usually say getting rich, stay rich phase. And then what most people don't talk about is live rich phase.
Yes.
So it's getting rich. It's mostly about accumulation, and living richly, jumping to what I'd like to talk about more, the living rich phase, is about alignment. So I would say the signs what I look for when I see new clients, if they're stuck in the getting rich phase, they know how to make money, but they don't know how to enjoy their time. They keep, and you've probably seen this too, they keep optimizing long after they don't need to anymore. They still focus on that because they're good at it and it feels good.
Yeah.
And many have financial freedom, but still live in kind of psychological constraint. So they've mastered building wealth, but fewer have mastered receiving the life that they were meant to create, kind of moving past and going into something, another creation phase.
Yeah, and those are all different skills, because I like how you mentioned the staying rich, because we've all seen people, celebrities, athletes at the highest level who, they they accumulate some assets, but then they don't hang on to them. And then those who do hang on to them, it's like, are you really enjoying it? Did you happen to watch that interview between Alex Hormozy and Tony Robbins?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I
Tell
will have
me.
to send it to you because, I mean, Alex Hormozy has had just wild levels of financial success. And, Tony Robbins was basically like live coaching him on his podcast. And it was because he didn't have a goal beyond accumulating money and accumulating success, because Tony was like, well, like, what's the meaning behind this goal? He's like, well, I've made all these millions of dollars, so I guess like the next goal is billionaire. And, Tony's like, why?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why do you even want that? Not, if you're just chasing the money, it's like, for what purpose? And it was so interesting to hear Tony Robbins talk about his purpose and his passion. And he said, the reason why I'm still going and why I'm still, achieving financial milestones is because I have this very big goal about feeding hungry people. And it was like directly related to him growing up hungry. I mean, if you go back and, read the history of Tony Robbins, I mean, he grew up food insecure as a kid. And so, as he started having some success, like the first thing he did was he sponsored like a family or two for their Thanksgiving, right? And then it kind of snowballed from there. And now he's got this big goal, not of being a billionaire, but of feeding a billion people. And so that's what's keeping him going. He has this purpose, and obviously he's got other pieces of his life and purpose. But is that one of the things that you help people with?
Definitely, because life can be quite hollow when you accumulate wealth. And many of my clients comes to me and they say it in different ways, but they say like, Moa, why doesn't my life look as good? Why doesn't it feel as good as it looks? Because they have the right car, they have a beautiful wardrobe, they do fancy trips. Everything was really good on Instagram or,
Yes.
from their neighbor's perspective. But then it feels a little bit hollow and they can't really shake the feeling and they can't really see why. So that's why I say like the next level of wealth is alignment of who you are, what's important for you, anchored in your purpose and who you are, in your values. And that's when, life starts to change. And that's definitely something that I like to support all my clients with. But it's also like a huge thing for me personally to be able to walk them into their legacy era. I usually call it like the legacy era, when it's not longer it's the conversation and the thoughts and the thoughts about the future and planning is not only about you, your family, and the ones closest to you. It's about creating like ripple effects for a bigger cause. And that's kind of like when they kind of like they're ignited again. Because a lot of wealth, because it makes a comfortable life. And many people get stuck in the comfortable life. And then they're kind of like are afraid to take chances or risks to do something that really means something. So I kind of like support them in moving out of that phase, because it's a phase. You can walk into the next thing if you want to. So that's one of the, joys of what I do.
I love that. Well, I love your tagline, which is the secret millionaire's best friend. Many people assume that wealthy individuals want everyone to know how much money they have, but in reality, many seem to go out of their way to downplay their wealth. Like, why do you think that is? Like, what emotional or social dynamics are happening beneath the surface that cause successful people to hide or minimize or even avoid talking about their financial success?
That's interesting because I've thought about this question and I see these patterns all the time. So I would say the three things that I come up with, I think it's protection, because visibility attracts attention and not all attention feels safe for people. And the second thing is belonging, and not everyone, everyone wants some people, or most people, I would say, they like belonging more than the feeling of impressing people. sort of say,
Yeah.
to kind of like showing off, especially in the Nordic countries. It's not like it's a little bit frowned upon to want to show off what you have. So I think people are it's a cultural thing too, but I think in general people would like to, if they need to choose, and we're either or thinking, our brain does the either or thinking. So between belonging and impressing, I think most people will choose belong. And it's not true that you have to
Yeah.
choose, but I think it's one of the reasons why people hold back or are going stealth wealth or not talking to even their kids. Because I sit with a lot of families that haven't even told their parents or their kids.
Mm.
So many of my clients have as a kind of like a homework to go home and to speak to their children at least, so that they will be more prepared and feel the support in being grown-ups or older grown-ups in a really good economy. So it's not like something that they, will be surprised with later on in life, so they can feel more, they can be better stewards of the
Yes.
wealth, of the family wealth. And the last thing, shame. It always
Yes.
comes up. Yes, because it's something that people, they, you don't want to talk about wealth because you feel shame, because you feel that you shouldn't have problems when you are wealthy. So you kind of like, you yourself disqualify yourself from having struggles in life. And
Mm.
in general, people also disqualify you from allowing you to struggle. Society and yourself assume that money can solve everything, but it's not the case. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
also,
it's like,
it's
oh,
a
poor little
very,
rich girl, right?
yes,
Like,
yes,
oh, like cry
definitely.
me a river of all your problems while you
Yeah,
know, sit in your Porsche in front of your mansion and cry. Like, I'm gonna just feel sorry for you because, I can barely afford my car payment. But it's like, we're tangling the money with the humanness of life.
yeah. So, and I would also say, like, it's one of the loneliest experiences to have a problem that you're not allowed to talk
Mm,
about. And it doesn't matter what kind of problem it is, but yeah, especially when it comes to money.
mm.
It's also like it can be money problems as well, even though you have a lot. So they get kind of lonely, and there's where I come into the picture, and I can talk about it from a perspective that I've heard everything by now.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can confess a lot of things that they feel are not supposed to be problems. And I've heard them before, and some of them is easier to solve with a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I've heard a lot of those same things. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about cultivating spaces for women to talk about money, like my Wealthy Woman Book Club and my upcoming group experience, the Merchant Priestess Path, who is for women who are either millionaires or building that million net worth, because there aren't a lot of spaces to be able to talk transparently and confidentially, right? And also be able to ask questions. Because I think the other part of the shame is when you have a certain amount of wealth and you don't know something about money or financial products or, legal or tax things, it's like you feel dumb for not knowing.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say there's spaces to talk about money. It's with financial advisors or your bank, but there's very few spaces for the person behind the money.
Yes.
So I see that my clients don't like to be viewed as a bag of money on two legs.
No, no one wants to be viewed that way.
Sometimes they kind of like perceive themselves as a bag of money on two legs, because it means like, it's also like insecurity to walk in a room with friends, and then you don't kind of like, you mix up, do they invite me to this kind of trips or lunches because I'm supposed to pay?
Mm,
And you get insecure when you don't have the boundaries in place.
yeah,
And also, if you get invited to wine tasting or things, or someone that suggests you be your pension broker, you don't know whether you're there for the money or whether you're there as a person, and it's kind of like get blurred. And most people don't like that, and it's confusing, and it's kind of like lower your feeling of self-worth.
yeah,
Definitely. Mm.
yeah. Well, and then it pulls in that whole belonging. And, I've seen that with my clients. I've even seen that in my own perspective where I've had, you know, friends fall away or former clients or people who used to be in my audience fall away now that I've achieved multimillionaire status where they feel uncomfortable or they feel like I'm not relatable even though I'm the same person, I just have more money.
Yeah, yes.
So it is
Mm.
very interesting. And
Oh,
also, I wanted to call back to the protection piece. I mean, that is a very legitimate concern. I mean, we have all of these scams going on. You hear about people who, think they've met the love of their lives and then they find out that this person just wants to drain their bank account. And so, I mean, yeah, there are some legitimate concerns.
yes. And, I have many stories to tell, but it's definitely one of the things that can happen if you're a young adult and you're dating. It can be something you're scared of, but it can actually happen too. So,
Mm,
and also that you might attract the person that's choosing you because of the possible life standard that you can provide.
yep.
And sometimes you confuse the standard you can provide with the value that you bring, you know, besides your money, the person you
Mhm.
are and the
Yeah.
good heart and the creativity. And then you kind of like reduce yourself to your money because it's something
Mhm.
that's really tangible. The money is tangible. You can measure them, but the love in your heart, it's harder to measure. Even a doctor can't see
Right.
understand the weight of the gold in your heart. So yeah, it's a tricky thing. It's a really, but also it's very interesting and tricky and very human.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's interesting that some people who are having high levels of financial success aren't even confiding in their parents or their kids, and I think, I would imagine for some people, if they're not confiding in their parents, that maybe it was because their parents said disparaging things about people with wealth growing up. I'm not sure why people wouldn't tell their grown kids if it's just like, oh, we shouldn't talk about money. Or maybe
But
they
it's
think their
it's
kids.
most of the time they don't want to make their life harder.
Mm,
It's the excuse that I hear all the time because I've heard from the beginning, but no, my kids are too small. They're just 5 and 8. No, my kids are too small. They're just 15 and 18. No, my kids are too small. They're just 35 and 38. And then I was like, hey, wait a minute. There's something going on here. So it's mostly like the person that holds the wealth that's not ready.
mm,
It's not the kids,
yeah.
whether age they have. So it's also that most people are lovingly, they don't want to take away the drive.
Mm,
And I usually work with people that's first and second generation of wealth, and they experience also happiness and joy by doing something and accumulating wealth and doing something, building something up. And it's something that they're really proud and happy about. And they want the same for their kids.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
they don't
No,
want
I
to
could
take
see
away
that.
that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've heard the phrase, give your kids enough money that they can do anything, but don't give them so much money that they can do nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
And I love
definitely.
that.
Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Dare to enter the Wealthy Woman Book Club, where answers exist to forbidden questions, where women of all ages and income secretly gather, where knowledge is shared, where possibilities are explored, where women claim their power. Dare to stay a spell in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. In this place, we lift each other up. In this place, we start dreaming again. In this place, we see financial miracles. In this place, we grow through the glory and the failure. In this place, we step into a new identity. Dare to champion the Wealthy Woman Book Club. We're creating a future where women are financially empowered across the globe. We're creating a future where our daughters stand on equal financial footing with our sons. We're creating a future where we purchase with our principles rather than price tags. We're creating a future where we use the power of money for the benefit of people and the planet. Welcome to the Wealthy Woman Book Club. Dare to come in, woman. Come in. Join us at wealthywomanbookclub.com.
Well, on this podcast, we talk a lot about money stories and how our identity shapes our financial behavior. How does someone's identity evolve as they accumulate wealth? And what mindset shifts are necessary so that success enhances your life instead of becoming another source of pressure, isolation, or heavy responsibility?
It's a really big identity shift that you need to go through, and it's quite lonely to do it on your own. It's perfect if you can do it with a sibling or a spouse or a friend or with an expert. So it's just like I usually say, like the version of you that created wealth isn't always the version that's meant to enjoy it, because you will enjoy it in a different way. So I would say the majority of my clients need to go from proving something, working really hard, to more like expressing something. So rather express if they're experts in something that they're really good at, and also go from quite close, but from achieving to start to choose. So it's kind of like, I usually say, like, there's also like if we went to a restaurant together, and some people will definitely choose something from the menu, they will start to pick something that they think look good. And then deliberate this to say, can I have 2 starters and a dessert instead of a main course? That's to be really deliberate to choose. But I say that we can also go into the kitchen and say to the chefs, it's like, what's the catch of the day? Can you make something with mayonnaise and sausages? I don't know. But then you really design your choice. So that's something that's it's a big identity shift. It's a big perspective shift to actually honor yourself and to choose more wisely. And it doesn't always need to go only for like what you choose in a restaurant. It can be like, life as a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And also to go from accumulation solely to contribution, because that's the big return of investment for you if you're in your live rich era.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I think that we can be in our live rich era while we're still accumulating. And I would love for people to really adopt this mindset, because I think a lot of people say things like, I'll enjoy life when, and I'll contribute when. And, I'm so glad that my dad taught me about contribution when I was literally at rock bottom. Like, I could only afford to donate $5 a week to the local homeless shelter. But he instilled that habit into me to say, even if you are at rock bottom and all you can afford is $5 a week, there's always someone less fortunate than you, and it feels so good to give. And so that's something that, whether I've been in very plenteous times like I'm in now, or whether I've been in, less than desirable financial times, it's like there's always something to give financially. And I think we can also create that enjoyment piece at the level we are financially, because unless somebody is truly struggling to pay the bills, we can start to make those conscious choices about, okay, well, if this is my discretionary spending, how can I spend it in such a way that is really enhancing my life and enhancing enjoyment of life? And is it going to be amazing when I get a yacht where I can have a helipad on it? Yes. But do I need to wait until I'm a billionaire to get a boat that I can enjoy? Well, no, of course not.
And I would say most people think also that the feelings that you want to have, they will come once you have the yacht and the things. But then many people get surprised by that you don't get. It's not like a bundle deal, that you need to create the kind of feelings or the core desired feelings that you have. You need to be able to create them, and that you can do whatever your economical status is right now. And it will just amplify the more money you get.
Yes.
And giving something to something that is meaningful to you, to a homeless shelter or to animal rescue or something that speaks to your heart will make you feel even richer, no matter the size of your wallet.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
I
Well,
love it so much that you say that you can practice and you can do this switch,
yes.
now. You don't have to wait.
Yes. Yeah. I encourage people not to wait until they've achieved a certain level of success. It's like, let's figure out how we can carve out something for you to do that now. So this next question, we've touched on it a little bit, but I think there are probably a few things we can go a little deeper on here. But I've noticed that as people become more financially successful, relationships can become more complicated. Sometimes friends treat them differently. Family members have expectations, and people assume that you're always going to pick up the check. How do wealthy people maintain authentic relationships while also creating healthy boundaries around their resources?
It's definitely something that needs to be updated. I would say like 50% of my clients are also like sudden wealth, sudden money clients, which means that they inherited a lot of money quite fast or they made an exit. And then it needs to be spoken about quite fast because if you have the boundaries that you had when you had another economical status, it will not work in this new economy. So otherwise it's going to be quite messy. So usually I say like be generous but not unlimited, and that boundaries are love. Generosity without boundaries often becomes resentment. Because you assume things and it kind of like goes wishy-washy and nobody knows if you stepped on someone's toes or what kind of expectations is there. It's always something in the room and you can't really address it because then you need to just decide on what boundaries you stand for and when you treat your family or your friends and when you don't do that. I would say one of the healthiest things what the people can learn is that access to them, it's also like energy and time, but it's also like the money. It's a privilege to have access to you, and it's nothing that is given away easily, and other people don't have access. They don't have the right to have access to your time, to your generosity, to your life force. Basically, you have to set boundaries, and it's kind of like where the scarcity comes in, that you don't belong, you can't be part of the flock anymore, and people can get disappointed. Many people have, including myself, have difficulties with making people uncomfortable or disappointed.
Right. Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is sometimes people can be hurt or upset, not just from you withholding financial help, but sometimes people can feel like when you do help someone, sometimes they can feel shame about the fact that they needed you to help them. And I've seen that too.
Yes. So I would say it's kind of like it's the fear is that people will resent you for not supporting them enough. But I think what's hardest for my clients is to talk about strategies how to be more generous, to make people actually accept your support, your help, your generosity. So one of the things is Stephen, one of my clients, he made a really good statement. He said, like, I'm using something that I call the voucher philosophy or voucher mythology. He said, like, when they're going on vacation together with friends, they want a certain standard and can afford a certain standard, whilst others can't. And they say that we're traveling quite often to this place or to this hotel chain, and they gave us a voucher. So why don't you use it? And then they upgrade their friends or family, and it's easier to accept, and it's with the pride intact.
I love that. So it's kind of sneaky, but in a good way.
Yeah, you can lie a little bit because it's easier to accept for someone else. Or it's also like with someone said like, I'll buy the concert tickets and you can buy me a beer.
Yeah.
So it's also allowed people to contribute. And let's see whether I can translate this good in Swedish. Someone also said, like, I am for that everyone should be invited as long as everybody's scooping, and no matter the size of the scoop. because some are able and willing to contribute a lot when it comes to money, and some can just contribute a little in their season where they're at. And it was such a good thing. He says like everybody should get on board if they're scooping.
Yeah.
And
No.
so that's a really good thing too. And I think it's actually works. And also to say like the treat thing. Someone actually invited their parents-in-law to go on a private jet somewhere in Europe, and they had a really hard time to accept. And then they said, "You can buy the kids ice cream when we arrive," and then they agreed.
Well, and I think that, as a parent, you have been conditioned that you are providing for your children.
Yeah.
And I think having that role reversal can be hard for some parents.
Yeah. So it's kind of like open a little window for other people to actually contribute too. Is that they can bring you pie, or they can buy you a beer, or they can buy ice cream when you arrive with your private jet. It's just like to make them kind of like have the dignity and the confidence of being equal, so I can also contribute with something. So that makes it easier for people to actually accept your generosity. And I think it's one of the things that you have to have certain strategies for.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you mentioned to me that you love speaking about the 6 principles for aligning success with a life of purpose. Could you walk us through those principles and explain how they help people to move from simply accumulating wealth to creating a life that feels genuinely rich?
The first principle would be money solves money problems. And just remember that that's how it works. And it doesn't solve identity problems, and it doesn't solve your challenges with meaning and belonging.
Yeah.
So you can't really buy that. You need to work with it, and you can start now, whether you have wealth already or not. Principle number 2 is build your wealth identity and learn who you are after success. Already now. And when I say wealth identity, it's just to remember who you are, money aside.
Yeah.
What you contribute with in different rooms, what would go in your CV, but also like what does your friends, if they would describe you, how would they describe you?
Yeah. Besides rich.
Yes. And that you're good looking and rich and charming and everything else that you contribute with when you walk into a room. So you're really, really anchored into who you are, what you stand for, and what you like to contribute with in this world. And the third principle, I would say, it's define enough. I can't press how important this one is, because you always pushing forward.
Yep.
The end goal. So define what enough is for you, for your family, or at all when it comes to money. Because if enough is not defined, accumulation never ends.
Right.
It's a game. It's like an infinite game. There's always someone that has more money than you, and you can always strive further. And if it's just about the money, it will get kind of like hollow and not fulfilling. I love that you shared this story with Tony Robbins, and that he has a really clear why and a purpose behind why he keeps going and why he gets up in the morning and do what he does, besides that he's really good at it. And principle 4 is design your life deliberately. So I would say, as humans, we're really a little bit like sloppy and lazy.
Yes.
And we go back to what's known. So it's so easy to accidentally inherit someone else's version of success. And something that I hear a lot is just like, someone like me should like to go play golf. Someone like me should enjoy champagne. Someone like me should have this kind of car in the driveway. It's just that it doesn't necessarily have to be true for you.
Right. Yes. Figure out what you like.
Figure out what you like. And it can be kind of like, I had a client that prolonged his year program a week ago, and he said you must think that I'm a hopeless case because I'm not fixed by now. And
no.
I said no, no one is. It's just it takes time. It takes time to figure out who you are and what you truly want, especially if you have been working really, really hard and you've been, forcing and struggling and doing that for a really long time. It takes some time to actually relax and to understand who you are and what's important for you and what you actually like, and not to be embarrassed about it.
Yes.
So principle number 5 is investing in people and the feeling of belonging, because relationships becomes even more important when you get wealthy. It doesn't get less important. So it's really important because it kind of like anchors you and holds you, and you are not designed to hold extreme wealth by your own.
Yeah.
And the last principle, I would say, principle number 6, is to put some time on, going into the legacy era to create ripple effects and turn your wealth into contribution, legacy, and meaning. Because that's the return on investment for you. That will, make you die eventually with a smile on your face.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think a lot of people, when they get to that stage, as opportunities present themselves, they're just like, oh, I'll throw some money at this, or somebody asked me for this and I'll throw some money at this. And it's funny because that was actually touched on in that interview with Alex and Tony, because Tony was asking Alex, like, have you contributed? And it was like, he did, but he contributed to a cause that helped kids, and he didn't have kids, and at the time he didn't think he wanted kids, which, funny story, his wife is now expecting their first child. So, but Tony was like, you gave like $1 million away to this cause that you had no personal attachment to, and so it's like, you want to be giving to causes that, that warm your heart, right? And that you're intentional about it and not random. And that's also something that I help my clients with, is to design, I call that the benefactor blueprint, of really identifying what are those different things that are important to you, and let's be generous on purpose. Yes, we can also be spontaneously generous, and we should build that in, but it's like, we need to have both of those two things.
Yeah, I'd love that. Intentionally generous. Yes. And one of the things that I also say, like, it should be, is it called bank? What was it called? Like the bank statement that you can see everything you spent money on your bank account. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually say that you should see your values on your bank statement. And then you know that you've been spending your money and your time intentionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I have a really big budget for spiritual wellness.
Yeah.
And also contribution. When people say like, oh, when you log into your personal finance app, I'm like, that's like a big chunk of what I spend money on, because it's important to me, and it's very fulfilling. And so it's like, you have to figure out, what are those things? And it is so interesting to have those discussions with clients, and I know you do too. Sometimes when people talk about their spending, they'll like apologize in advance for something. And it's like, look, don't apologize to me that you're spending money on Botox, or that you drop 10 grand on a trip once a year to Las Vegas because you enjoy gambling. As long as it fits into your overall picture, I am totally fine with you spending on those things, as long as it's not compromising, your financial security or your other long-term goals. So it's interesting how people, it's like they don't want to even tell people what they enjoy, because they feel like, oh, they're going to judge me because I enjoy that, whatever it may be.
It doesn't matter whether it's on ice cream on your garden, or, trips to the sea. People feel a little bit like embarrassed, and also like, I think, naked to be honest and true about who they are and what they truly enjoy, because most people feel that they should be someone else, or a little bit different, or should be something else than who they truly are.
Yeah.
So they kind of like try to overcorrect with saying, this is a little bit embarrassing, but.
Yeah. And you're like, no, if you love it, if you love professional wrestling, and one of your goals is to follow the WWE all around the country so you can watch all these, wrestling shows live, and you think, that other rich people are going to judge that, it's like, hey, if you love it, go for it.
Yeah. 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 If you love, wrestling and hot dogs, go for it.
Yes. Yes. It's not like all of a sudden I'm rich, I have to enjoy watching polo matches and, drinking champagne with my pinky out.
No, definitely like that. It's also like when I put people together in my, network of people, it's also like when I put them in the same room, it's kind of like they give themselves and each other permission to be who they are, to do what they like, especially like first and second generation wealth creators also often disqualify themselves for what they like and where they're from and how they dress and which room they feel comfortable in. So like 2 years ago, I had also had like clients of mine that didn't need to work for a single hour more in his life, but he chose to go back to work on kind of like doing payments during the summer because he liked it. He didn't like, he was so much more comfortable spending his time with other men in reflex vests, the worker thing they wear, rather than to have a nicer suit.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's so funny.
So,
but I love that, right? It's like
so I would say it would be you. Yes, definitely. And I would say the goal is not to simply have wealth. If you don't have it, that's easy to just chase the money. But the goal isn't simply to have wealth. The goal is to become someone who knows how to use wealth in service of the life that feels deeply, I would say, worth living for you.
Yeah.
No matter what is.
Yeah. I love this. Well, I think you and I could probably talk for another 2 or 3 hours about this, but I don't know that our listeners have the patience to sit that long with us. But before we wrap up, I have a fun question for you. What's something you've been loving lately? A book, a show, a podcast, or a hobby that has nothing to do with money or wealth?
So I just planted my own wine. It's really interesting because both me and my husband's parents are from the north of Sweden, so we've been cultivating like carrots and onions and potatoes, and those grows in any climate. And then 2 years ago, one of our neighbors came by and she said, like, you should come and pick some, lukewarm, sun-warm peaches and wine from my garden. We were like, what?
Wine from your garden?
Yeah. Yes. So now she's actually a winemaker and she planted a lot of wine. So she's my expert now. So 2 weeks ago, we planted our 50, what's it called? Like,
the vines.
Plants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plants. So that's something that I'm really much enjoying. We don't live at that house still yet. We live in apartments. So I am so excited to go there the coming weekend and see how much they've grown and to learn more about winemaking.
That is so fun. I love it. Well, Moa, this has been such a refreshing conversation. I think one of the biggest takeaways for all of us is that wealth isn't simply about the size of your bank account. It's about the quality of your life. Yes, money can create options. It can create freedom. It can create opportunities. But money alone can't create purpose. It can't create meaningful relationships. It can't create belonging, and it certainly can't create peace. The truth is that every level of wealth comes with its own emotional challenges and opportunities for growth. Whether you're striving towards your first financial milestone or you've already achieved big financial success, the invitation is the same. Don't just focus on getting rich. Focus on becoming the kind of person who knows how to live richly. Because money's job is to support your happiness, not to be the source of it. So, Moa, thank you so much for being on the show. I encourage all of you who are listening to connect with her and follow her on social media. I've included all the links right here in the show notes. Well, my friend, this is where I leave you for today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. It helps others to find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Christine Luken, the Merchant Priestess, reminding you that you're good enough, you're powerful enough, and yes, people love you, including me. Bye for now.